All right, today we're going to talk about a deceptively simple idea that completely flipped modern marketing on its head. It comes from Seth Godin, and it's called the purple cow. It's an incredible concept that explains why some things become legendary, while most just fade away.
For the better part of a century, this was the undisputed playbook for success. You could literally build a billion-dollar empire on this one idea. You just make something decent, something for the masses, and then you pour an insane amount of money into advertising. It was predictable, it was reliable, and you know what? It worked like a charm.
But what if that formula, the very one that built the world's biggest brands, isn't just a little outdated? What if it's completely and utterly broken? That's the core idea here. The entire game has changed.
Okay, let's really dive into this. To get why that rule is broken, we first have to understand the world that created it in the first place. A world that, frankly, just doesn't exist anymore.
This right here, this was the engine of 20th century business. Think about it. A company like Procter & Gamble would create a soap. They'd buy a bunch of TV commercials. We'd see those commercials over and over, and we'd go buy the soap. And what would P&G do with the profits? Yep, you guessed it. They'd buy more commercials. It was this perfect, self-feeding loop.
And this machine, man, it built empires. Brands like Tide, Crest, Pringles, these became household names, all powered by that simple rhythm: make, advertise, sell, and repeat. For decades, this was the only game in town, and it was incredibly effective.
So, what broke the engine? Well, we did, the consumer. Just think about your own day. We're bombarded with thousands of messages. You don't have 2 types of aspirin to choose from anymore. You have 100. Our attention has become the most valuable resource on the planet, and we've all just learned how to ignore the noise. The TV industrial complex ran on attention, and we've simply run out of it to give.
And this leads us to the central metaphor of the whole book, which just perfectly captures the feeling of the modern marketplace. So, Godin tells this story about driving through the French countryside with his family. And at first, they were totally captivated by these beautiful, picturesque cows in the fields. It was idyllic, but after 20 minutes, they were just cows. What was amazing at first became common, and then it became even worse. It became boring, invisible. This is our world. The modern marketplace is just a field packed to the brim with these brown cows. Think about all the nearly identical smartphones or the endless aisles of cereal. They're all perfectly fine, totally competent, and completely, utterly boring. They become invisible because they're just like everything else.
And this is the terrifying part. The old strategy of making a safe, ordinary product is no longer safe at all. In fact, it is the riskiest thing you can possibly do. Because in a world full of brown cows, being the safe choice guarantees you'll be ignored.
So if being a brown cow is a death sentence, then what's the alternative? Well, this is where the hero of our story comes in. Imagine you're driving through that same French countryside, looking at all the boring cows, and suddenly you see it. A purple cow. You would slam on the brakes, you'd get out of the car, you'd take pictures, and the second you got home, you would tell absolutely everyone you know about the purple cow you saw. It would be remarkable. So, here's the crucial point. A purple cow is a product or service that has remarkability built directly into its DNA. It's not about slapping a clever add-on at the end. The thing itself is what's worth making a remark about. It's designed from the very beginning to be talked about. This chart just shows the shift perfectly. On one side, you have these classic products that won through mass marketing. But on the other, you have purple cows. JetBlue didn't just have better ads than United. They had a remarkable service with live TV and brand new planes. Starbucks wasn't just another coffee shop. It was a remarkable experience.
This is the entire strategic shift in a nutshell. We've moved from a world of creating something kinda boring and then shouting about it to a new world where the goal is to create something so interesting that the right people will whisper about it, until that whisper becomes a roar.
But who exactly are these right people? And how does an idea actually travel from them to the rest of us? The mechanics of this are absolutely critical. So this is the Idea Diffusion Curve, and it basically shows how any new idea moves through a population. Way over on the left, you have the risk takers, the innovators, and early adopters. In the middle is that huge chunk of people, the majority, and then on the far right you have the laggards, the ones who are always last to the party. Now here's the kicker. Old marketing aims straight for that giant block in the middle. The purple cow strategy says that's a complete waste of money. The majority is too busy and too afraid of risk to listen to you.
Your only chance is to sell to that small, passionate group on the left. They're the only ones paying attention. And if you win them over, they become your sales force.
Godin calls these critical people sneezers. Why? Because when they find a great idea, they can't help but sneeze it all over their network. These are the influential, trusted people who get a thrill from discovering what's next and telling everyone about it. Your job is simply to create something that is worthy of their sneeze.
This is such a powerful and radical thought. It means that every single marketing dollar you spend on the uninterested majority is a dollar down the drain. The only people we're talking to are the people who actually want to listen and have the credibility to spread your message for you.
So if this strategy is so powerful, it kind of begs a pretty obvious question, doesn't it? Why isn't every product a purple cow? And this brings us to the final and maybe the most human part of this whole idea. So why do we see so many brown cows and so few purple ones? It's not because people lack ideas or resources. The reason is something much deeper than that.
The answer is fear. Plain and simple. Being remarkable means you are putting yourself out there to be judged. Some people won't like it. They might even criticize you publicly. And most organizations and the people inside them are absolutely terrified of that. They've been trained since they were kids to color inside the lines and not make a fuss. And this brings us to the final, mind-bending takeaway. The old definition of safe, being average, fitting in, not making waves, has become the new definition of risky. In today's crowded world, being boring is the one thing that actually guarantees failure. So the question I'll leave you with is this. Is the biggest risk you can take not taking one at all?